Hey everybody, I'm Jill Redfern, and welcome to Third Shift Movement Shop, home of literal technique. In this tutorial, we're going to do a combination that I call fun with small flexion. We're talking, of course, about flexion of the vertebrae, and there are degrees of flexion of the vertebrae. When I say small, what I mean is flexion of the thoracic vertebrae. So we're going to do a real simple combination that lets us practice how to find this small flexion, not only laterally, which means to the side, but also forward flexion. So before I show you the combination, let's talk about a couple of things. In flexion of the vertebrae, what we're essentially talking about is bringing the two barrels closer together. If I flex to the side, the rib cage barrel gets closer. If I flex forward, the rib cage barrel gets closer to the pelvic barrel. The other thing about flexion is that it requires us to be aware of the thoracolumbar joint and the lumbosacral joint. And I've talked about these two joints quite a bit. But I want you to find your thoracolumbar joint, which is where the last thoracic vertebrae meets the first lumbar vertebrae. So find the last rib of your rib cage. That's the last thoracic vertebrae. Directly below it is the first lumbar vertebrae, and there's a joint there that allows flexion and extension. Extension is behind the body. The lumbosacral joint is where the lumbar meets the first sacral joint. So lumbar 5 meets sacral 1. So these two joints are at the end, the top and the bottom of the lumbar vertebrae. There are 5 lumbar vertebrae. They're not very far apart. So you can see how it can be really easy to be confused about exactly how far down am I flexing the vertebrae. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And as usual, when we move the vertebrae, we're using all 7 central muscles. Some of them may be stabilizing and some of them may be actually moving the bone, but we're using all 7. There's not a way to use 6 and the 7th one doesn't do anything. So the question in your mind should always be, what muscle's doing what? In the case of lateral flexion, we have the obliques. Remember, the obliques are a pair of muscles. There's an internal and an external oblique on each side of the body. The obliques cause lateral flexion. The erector spinae's primary function, aside from helping us maintain the anatomical curves, is to flex or extend the vertebrae, and we're flexing laterally. It does not get involved in forward flexion. The erector spinae are muscles that are down each side of the 33 vertebrae and on the ribs. So when we are flexing, the erector spinae with the obliques are causing flexion. The lats will also do a little bit of assistance with lateral flexion. But transversus is still stabilizing and the pec majors are still stabilizing the rib cage barrel. When we're in forward flexion, rectus ab, remember our friend, the 6-pack muscle, rectus ab is primarily making that flexion happen. I'm bringing the rib cage closer to the pelvic barrel. But the obliques also, both sides contract and help with that forward flexion. Transversus is still stabilizing and the lats and the pecs are still doing their stabilizing thing. So those muscles all of the 7 muscles have a role to play every time we stabilize or move the vertebrae. And the other thing I want you to remember is whenever we plie, and I've said this in other tutorials, whenever we plie, alignment of the pelvic barrel changes. The transversus role of stabilizing and compressing down here, low in the abdominal, low down in here, helps us keep the lumbosacral joint neutral in plié, and it helps us find the neutral again when we extend out of plié. So with all of that in mind, let me show you what the combination looks like. This combination is in 4/8, and we're going to stay in rotated first position through the entire combination. Okay, and 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, seems pretty simple, but let's walk through a couple of things that you'll need to be aware of. First of all, when we flex to the side, the skull is going to come along for the ride as an extension of the vertebrae. It's not going to happen first. It's also not going to flex and extend. So when you flex to this side, it's going to come here, and it's still in line with the vertebrae, and it comes back up. When you flex forward, the skull does flex, and it moves first, and it comes up last. The other thing is when we get here, so let's start here. I'm in my anatomical curves, and I'm going to flex to the side. I'm going to flex, find the thoracolumbar joint, and flex from there. I'm keeping the lumbosacral joint neutral, notice. Now I'm going to plie, and I still want to keep that lumbosacral joint neutral. Remember, you've plied, you've changed the alignment of the pelvic barrel. I'm going to lengthen out of the plie, and I've got to find that neutral again in the lumbosacral joint, and before I lengthen out of the flexion and find my anatomical curves again. When you flex forward, I'm in my anatomical curves. The head flexes first, and again, I'm at that joint. I'm not flexing any further than that. We're going to flex first and here. So you can see we've got a neutral lumbosacral joint, and I'm only flexed at this part, at this joint. I'm going to come back up, and I'm going to find the neutral lumbosacral joint again. So when I come here and I plie, when I lengthen out of the plie, and find it again when I lengthen out of the flexion. So this is a really great exercise. Go as slowly as you need to in order to really find these alignments. So let's do it again. We'll do it twice through. Okay. And 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Find that neutral going forward. 2, plie 3, 4, 5, 6. Find neutral again, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2. Don't flex too far into the vertebrae. 5, 6, and 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Skull is part of the vertebrae. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and finish. In your class this week, certainly during pliés, you could practice the neutrality of the lumbosacral joint. Where you can practice flexion of the thoracic vertebrae will depend upon the combinations that take place in your class, but you can certainly practice this flexion side and front outside of class or before class as you're warming up, and visualizations are always a great way to find and correct alignment. They are really successful at changing the way we move. So put all that together, and I will see you next week.